crimes, especially in domestic violence, with guns that are owned legally. So if there's a domestic dispute and something happens long term, I've seen many times where that individual has committed an assault or even a murder with a legally owned firearm.
And so when people raise issues like that, I guess they're trying to express that so many guns are owned illegally. The criminals who have guns, they're not going to pay attention to your zoning changes. They're going to do what they're going to do.
Right. And this is not about the criminals. It's about land use and people and establishments that are selling them. Now, I always hear, well, criminals will get their guns first. Well, no one's a criminal until they commit the first crime. So a lot of times you'll see an individual who's never committed a crime before have a legally owned gun, and that takes that one opportunity for them to use that gun and hurt, either a stranger, but more often than not, it's someone that they know or care about.
Are there other gun curbing, gun violence issues, proposals that are being looked at?
We're also looking at the MAG's office right now. We're having a discussion on whether or not when an individual is arrested for a domestic violence charge, part of that bond is that they do not have firearms while they're out on bond. If you're arrested for a family violence and charged and convicted in the affirmative finding of family violence, you cannot own guns on the state and federal level. What we're asking, and we're having the conversation now, is that if someone's arrested, they're not convicted yet, they have not gone to trial or pled, should they have firearms in their possession?
And so the issue being, I mean, don't think you would have right now. You're the lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
If I am arrested for a domestic violence issue, and there's a concern about me having guns in my house, and then you go to a judge and get a separate order.
Correct. It doesn't always happen. I've seen times where police will confiscate the guns upon arrest, and I've seen times where they haven't. But now, if we can get a judge to sign an order saying, as long as you're out on bond, it's a condition of bond that you cannot own or possess a firearm while this case is pending, I think that might benefit the issue.
Have we seen folks who have been arrested out on bond who own guns and then use those guns to hurt others?
I know one specific. That's because of personal experience. We're working with the chief as well as the sheriff to get more numbers, as well as a court system to get a better understanding on statistics.
Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he has put out some proposals for dealing with gun violence, trying to still be all pro Second Amendment, but also deal with things like the red flag law, taking guns away from people who have mental health issues, violent mental health issues. I want to make sure we have a strong distinction there.
Right.
But is the city talking at that level, like what can be done in the legislature?
Yes. And so what we did in the Public Safety Committee, we had, I think, 3 or 4 recommendations that we supported that we sent to IGR, which is our legislative committee, which they'll put together a package. So when they go to Austin to lobby about certain local controls, a lot of what Governor Abbott put into his packet will also be part of our recommendation, i.e., if someone legally owns a firearm and keeps it in their car and it's stolen, that individual has the responsibility of notifying SAPD that my gun has been stolen. So we know there's another gun out on the street. And when you buy that gun legally, you always have it registered, you have that serial number. So we know exactly where that gun came from. Right now, we don't have those measures.
Back to the measure that's being talked about, the proposed issue that's working its way towards City Council. Gun shows are also part of this as well.
Right.
And as we talk about grandfathering and things moving forward, that seemed like something that would take effect almost immediately. Because it would be harder for you don't grandfather a gun show that hasn't happened yet.
Correct. And most gun shows don't own the property where they have their gun show. It's usually an event center or some other center which is already properly zoned.
Or the Joe Freeman Coliseum.
Correct.
Owned by the county.
Yeah, by the county. So we have to start having these conversations with both the city and the county to see what we can do, if anything at all. Once we get into the legal ramifications and legal discussions and legal arguments, we may not be able to touch the current gun shows, but it's always worth a look at.
And also, but there are still person-to-person gun sales, correct, which has been, they call that a loophole.
Right.
And that would still, I mean, you can sell guns at your garage sale.
Correct.
Totally legal.
Totally legal.
And nothing anyone can do about that.
Nope.
That's something that our society is working,
Exactly.
has worked out.
And then there's so many different ways to get a gun nowadays. And we're trying to propose something that's common sense that the city can regulate. Most of it we can't. I mean, our hands are tied in terms of the sale and purchase of firearms, but we can regulate land use.
Meanwhile, we're seeing in San Antonio a drop in violent crime.
Correct.
And as you being the public safety committee person for the city council, and this has been something that you ran on, what happened? What went right?
I think we had, from my perspective, there's so many different reasons of why this is working, but I think the chief has been doing great service and work in our communities. But I think the second thing is our community saying, you know what, enough's enough. Before, people weren't talking. When they knew crimes were, especially violent crimes, they weren't saying anything. Now we're getting phone calls. I've talked to the chief several times, and he's admitted that the number of witnesses or victims are starting to come out and speak. Even the DA's office, oftentimes, and now they're returning the phone calls when they have the alleged criminal and they're about to go to trial. Victims are calling people back and willing to testify.
Well, that seemed like a major development.
It's huge.
And what's behind that?
I think people have had enough. You know, at one time, crime was heavily increasing. But as we get out into our communities, into the streets, and we're talking to our neighbors, we're letting them know we're in this together. We're in this together, and we have to get these violent criminals off the streets.
And well, drugs is a big part of all that.
Correct.
What's happening to the drug trade?
So what happened? There was a huge arrest in the district that got a lot of the major drug dealers in the city. And the interesting part about that is, majority of them, not all of them, were not from the district. They're from all over the city. So we brought in a lot of partners, public safety partners, to come in and work this case, and they've been working it for months. They got the key stakeholders, and they apprehended majority of them. I think one or two are still free.
So on this gun regulations at the zoning level, give me the timetable. When will this work its way through to city council?
We're still working on the timetable. I would like to see it sooner than later. Let's go ahead and have that discussion and put it for a vote. But it's always going to depend on city staff putting together their legal opinion, as well as getting the stats and the information that they need to present a plausible argument for the recommendation.
But there's going to be plenty of opportunities for public input.
Absolutely. We always have citizens to be heard, and then we'll also have a few meetings out in the community talking to our constituents about the issue.
People always say, you guys already know what you're going to do. This is all just a charade.
No. I mean, of course, I'm a supporter of the UDC change, but we just have to have the conversation.
It's a process.
Yeah.
All right, William Cruz Shaw, District 2 City Council Member, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
No problem.
When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking about the power of forgetting, how your brain edits out things in order to help you deal with this crazy world that we live in. How does that work? How can you use it? How is it being done to help people who are dealing with trauma? Give us a call if you've got a question about memory and forgetting. 210-614-8980. The Source continues after this break.